Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and today I'm so excited to be joined by the wonderful Liza Colón-Zayas to talk all about The Bear. And starting off in talking a little bit about when you first took on the character of Tina, I was interested in just that journey of really kind of like looking through some of the pepper details that were in the script, looking at, her previous relationship working with Mikey, how long she'd been at the restaurant, the fact that she has her son, but then also kind of coming up with some of your own interpretations, like the fact that you kind of just instinctively felt like she was originally from New York and had moved to Chicago. And so I was just curious about that journey of taking the details that you had that were concrete and then kind of peppering in your own interpretations.
Well, I didn't know anything, season one, the pilot, about Tina. I didn't even have a script. It was a self-tape, and I just had a couple of scenes. And there is a large Puerto Rican community, huge Puerto Rican community in Chicago. And I was like, do I learn this accent or is there the freedom? It doesn't say I'm not from New York. So that's what I play. That's how I went in. And and because she's such a mystery, it's she's a woman of few words, so until she's screaming. Um I I just really just kind of take my cues from the script for the most part. Um I had a gut feeling. I recognized this woman. I recognize her fears, her 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 need to survive and protect herself, and the way she expresses herself, her tough love, um, her adjusting to the environment that she's in. And so I didn't judge it necessarily. I just wanted to know that there was going to be more layers and more nuance. I didn't need to know what was going to happen. Just as long as we are going to make her, not a typical the women fighting with each other, you know. And I was heard. I mean, Chris and Joanna and Renee and those they're amazing and generous and open and you feel it behind the camera, in front of the camera, I think. And then they came up with this season, and I'm really proud of it. I feel like this is honest, it's raw, it's authentic, and I believe if we can allow ourselves to keep watching, I think we see ourselves. So I guess all that to say, I guess all of that is to say that maybe I'm really just so connected to living in fight or flight mode that I understood Tina. And I have brothers, so I understand the guys.
It's so great. And I love that you mentioned one of the facets of her is that she is a woman of few words. And through that, you communicate so much with your expressiveness. And one of my favorite things when other characters are getting into arguments to do is to look over to Tina in the side of the shot and just kind of like to see her response, because it kind of feels like a lot of times she's just like, this is just a distraction. Just get on with the work. Like, what are you doing right now? And so I wanted to ask a little bit about just finding the expressiveness of the character as well, because it's so great.
Thank you. Find it, just listening, right? You're an actor. You just listen and check in with your point of view of what's going on around you. Um, that's the bottom line. I can't, it's still a living thing. It's not theater, but it's still, every take is a living thing. Um, and these guys bring such great stuff that how can I not listen and just check in and be nosy?
And you were also bringing up before that one of the things that you were so glad about is the fact that it wasn't, look at these two women at odds with each other. So when you looked at the dynamic with Sydney coming in new to the restaurant in season one, and how Tina was going to respond as someone who is fiercely loyal, but you have to earn that loyalty. How did you figure out what does this look like for Tina and kind of like engaging a little bit more distantly with Sydney at the beginning, but not with animosity?
um, I feel like she was proving herself, not just to me, but to everyone. Um, and she could have been vindictive, but she wasn't. She says, I don't have time to F around. And that's the bottom line. There isn't time for this. Like, you're here for the work. I'm here for the work. Um, you're not, she's so far she's not clicking any boxes for the things I'm afraid of. The new young hip kids with the culinary credentials. We're seeing so much loss. We lost Mikey. Um, the neighborhood around us is we're losing all of the original restaurants and work and there's just so much loss. So I think that is, once I see that she's fighting too, she's got something to prove, right? She's admires Jeremy, and she isn't working hard at the cost of making us feel less. It's not about ego. I think that's, what Tina's checking for, and little by little her, my fears, when she comes to my side with the potatoes, when she cuts herself. I mean, Tina underneath it all is maternal. The late
It's so great, and with that as well, I loved the scene that the two of you had together when Sydney asks her to be her sous chef, because it was such a beautiful moment, and you kind of see everything that it means to Tina, how far they've come in terms of their relationship with each other, down to the detail of like not just giving her that giant bear hug, but the fact that you physically lifted her up in that moment. Was like the lift part of it in the script, or was that the two of you kind of
No, I
building
just
through
did
that
it.
moment? And how did you want to use a scene like that to really just showcase so much of Tina's journey up until that point?
Well, I relate to it personally, to be in an industry where, even if you get a good run of something, nothing is promised. You're still starting again and looking for the next. And so I relate to that 30 years in this, of to be given a chance is, did I work for it? Yes. Did I earn it? Yes. I'm still lucky. And Tina is lucky. You'll find out why in season 3.
That's such a great tease. I mean, with that as well, I've heard you talk frequently about just that sense yourself that you bring to Tina of, is the other shoe going to drop at any moment? And now that you've gotten this far into filming the show, I was curious if you still kind of have that feeling, because it's been 30 years of constantly having that in your mind, or have you been able to let go of it a little bit for yourself?
A little bit. A little bit. I don't think I'll ever fully ever be on the other side. Not, but also I think it, like as an artist, there's always so much more to discover. Um, so I don't ever really feel satisfied fully. Um, yeah, but I'm getting better. I'm working on
I love that. And I
it.
also wanted to ask about some of the culinary training that you did going into season two, because, Tina comes from this background of really understanding food and having such a natural instinct for it, it being a way that she connects to people. But she didn't have that culinary credential. And then we got to see that journey of her going to culinary school and really stepping up. And so you yourself trained really intensely for a week with Chef David Waltrach, and then you spent more time with Chef Courtney Store in your apartment cooking together. And I was interested in just the experience of working with both of them and what you really wanted to elevate her skill set to and what that was like for you.
I want to elevate her skill set to where she is.
Mhm.
She's not where Io is. She's not where so that it's believable for where she
Mhm.
is. And so it's not going to always be perfect. Her technique, whatever, it does get messy. And so that's what I really wanted to bring to it so that, kitchen workers look at it and say, yeah, she's all right for where she is. But yeah, I loved working, Chef Waltuck, he is so chill. He's so zen, so patient, but very, very specific, but chill. You don't have to scream at people. That's ridiculous. And Chef Courtney Store, I just love that woman. She's a burst of sunshine, and yet she is a boss. What she handles is incredible, and still with the energy to be bubbly and let's work, let's practice. I love her.
And you were saying that part of it was you wanting people who are chefs themselves to be able to watch it and to be like, okay, like she's pretty good for where she's at. Didn't you have people tell you that the branzino slicing that she does, that the knife you were using was actually really big, so they were even more impressed with your skill in that?
Yeah. I was like, really? I'm glad I didn't know that beforehand. But yeah, yeah, no, that was so nice to hear. I got a long way to go with my slicing and dicing still. Um, but to have gotten that was I'd never filleted a fish before. In my first day with Chef Waltuck, my fingers were cut up. So it's nice to hear that.
I love that. And I also wanted to talk about your karaoke scene in the show, because it was such a beautiful moment. And I know that it's something that for you personally was incredibly nerve-wracking and really took you outside of your comfort zone in doing, in that scene where she sings before the next teardrop falls. And I was interested in just the journey of going into a scene like that and kind of having the realization that both for you and for Tina, it's not about perfection in the moment. It's just about being surrounded by people that care about you and just want to have a good time with you, and how that really helped you to step into the scene.
Yeah, it's part of what Tina's trying to do. And uh, being asked to be Sue and sent to culinary school, I think emboldened her to take that step to show up with the kids. Not sure if it was a pity invite, but I think Tina, like myself, I don't care. I'm gonna show up, and I'm gonna show up. Um, in spite of all the insecurities. And so, yeah, it was scary. I don't do public singing. I don't
You
do
do.
public singing. But, like Chris said, it's not about whether you can sing. It's about the courage to do it.
Absolutely. And, in that journey in culinary school for her as well, it was really wonderful to see the way that she treated Ebra, because she was kind of flourishing and he was really struggling with it. And it's this real sense of, if you fail, we all fail. We're all in this together no matter what. And I love you, but I'm still going to make it tough love, Tina love. And so was that just something that was just like very instinctive to you, that was going to be their dynamic together once you read the scripts?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think, I think Tina's got a way to go before that armor comes down all the way, especially with Ibra, because that's just our dynamic. I know Edwin for many years. We worked together before, and that was our dynamic back then. So it it works. Um, yeah, yeah. I could be him. So I love how we get to see her empathy and her follow-up and her concern. But then he's comes back and I gotta bust his nuts a little bit. That's how we do.
And
Yeah.
with the fact that, Tina's someone who really has a lot of passion for what she does, and you can see the focus. And, kind of going back to that idea that she gets invited out for drinks and she goes out, she's going to show up. I've heard you say that you don't think that that's something that she does very often, and it's probably been a while since she's taken that time for herself. Do you kind of envision her world outside as being someone who's just like so focused on her work during the day, her son and the people around her, and doesn't necessarily take a lot of time for herself in the world?
I don't think it's possible, right? Like working at the beef and then trying to build like the doll, build the bear is all consuming, and it's sink or swim. I don't imagine that she has too many options if it fails. Um, so yeah.
You're trying not to give away too much.
Yeah,
One
I
thing I
think
did want to, sorry.
no, I just think that like like people who really work in kitchens, if you have a curiosity and 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 the commitment to elevate, it's very little sleep, it's very little time with your family. So yeah.
It's like production hours, basically.
Yeah, it's been a minute, Tina, since you went and had a kid.
I also wanted to ask you about, in the final episode of season 2, there's that really wonderful one shot as they're going through opening night that is about 12 minutes long. And it's not the first time that the show has had those longer takes. What was the experience of filming that in kind of one go, where it's kind of coming in and going out of the kitchen, and it's, sometimes Tina's at the foreground, sometimes she's just in the background chopping vegetables, sometimes she's just eyeballing the disagreements that other people are having, going back to what we were talking about earlier.
Well, with the longer it takes, they're rehearsed. We map it out. And, again, it's just that thing of listening and being in the scene, but also being aware that you don't fall over the camera guy. So yeah, that's what's different for me here than theater is, I yeah, you got to hit your marks, but man, it's having Tina got to be real perceptive sometimes. It's fun. It's a beautiful thing. It's I can't say enough about Chris and our team.
And it was such a beautiful moment, kind of seeing when she goes over, when Carmi's stuck in the walk-in, and she has that conversation, and it's like she knows without asking him, if she doesn't need to say, "Are you okay?" She knows exactly kind of where he's at emotionally on the other side. She's like, don't worry about us. We're doing okay out here. Kind of, how are you? And just giving him the space. So what was that experience of filming that and really also just seeing the space that the two of them are at with their relationship at that point in the series?
Jeremy makes it so easy. He's just brilliant and he's so sweet. Just a nice, sweet guy. Um, so it's not hard to want to take care of him and to feel bad to see his struggle, and trying to balance his dream and his passion with this sinkhole of a restaurant and that conflict with his loyalties. Um, but yeah, Jeremy, he's just great to work with.
And one of the great things is the show with the dialogue is there's so many times where there can be conversations to do with cooking and food, but the conversation that they're having is really nothing to do with that. And such a great example of that is in that same episode when Tina's saying to Carmi, like, oh, hey, like, sorry, I've still been using your knife. I meant to give it back to you. And he's like, no problem. Like, keep hold of it because that knife is an extension of him. And so how did you want to use a conversation like that? Again, just like speak to their relationship and just always looking at the dialogue and the way that it's about one thing, but it's actually about something else.
Yeah, it seems so simple on the page at first glance, and it sneaks up on you. Brilliant. Like our writers are just, I'm sorry guys, we got the best writers. We got the best writers. Uh, yeah, and to go back and rewatch, it's stunning to see the little gems, the breadcrumbs, how so seemingly simple they are, and how they weave together is just mind blowing. I don't get bored binging. I feel like it sounds stupid, like it sounds ridiculous because you're on the show and it sounds very, egotistical, but that's not it. I'm stunned by these tiny little hidden messages that I didn't catch before. My husband hears me say that all the time. I didn't know.
He's like, oh, she's watching her show again.
Did you realize it?
I
Yeah.
also think in terms of that idea of just the way it is these little breadcrumbs throughout, it also does that in terms of the character growth and change. Nothing ever happens overnight, but you suddenly realize how far someone has come. And, in talking about that with Tina, her insecurities and fears that she has are so fascinating because they're based on real life experiences. The world has given her a lot of obstacles and a lot of no's. And so they're all completely valid and founded in reality, but she has been able to loosen up and kind of like let go of that a lot more and find a lot more self-confidence. And so how do you feel like you were able to kind of breadcrumb that? And what was kind of the bigger leap that you wanted to take when she has that feeling of, I didn't have a sense of security and now I have a feeling of stability. I don't feel like anybody's here trying to get rid of me.
That's a good question. Uh, all the most articulate I can be about it is that I just rolled with it. It just rolled with it, it's not like I I I I just did what really was on the page. We see a scene of us of 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 us bonding a little bit, you know. You don't have to overdo it. These writers have proven that they know they have a great they have a plan, and so it's so easy to bond with Io. She's so brilliant and funny. Like there's nothing she cannot do. and she tells great stories and she's hilarious. So it's not, I would actually apologize all the time when I was being wicked toward her. And cut, like, I'm so sorry. She's so sweet.
And I know that obviously you can't reveal anything specific about season 3 yet, but it was announced that Io directed an episode in season 3, and that the storyline of that is very much focused on Tina as a character. And so I just wanted to ask about the experience of being directed by Io, the creative vision that she brings to that, especially because both of you have been working together for 3 seasons, and then she also has 3 seasons of experience in knowing every single character. She knows Tina so much as well now.
Mm-hmm. She didn't fuss or interfere much, you know. We were just we were connected, and she gave me a note, every now and then, but we get it. We get this world, had the benefit, the luxury of experiencing this world together. So yeah, she was really just gentle and generous and encouraging, like she is Sydney. I was the one getting a little like nervous here, here and there. Um, because I wanted to, really do right by this show and by this episode. And I'm really proud of it. I
I
think we
can't
did
wait to see it.
we did good. Yeah.
And then I also wanted to talk about, you were mentioning before that obviously you've been working for 30 years and you've got so much experience that you're bringing into this character and into this role. And in particular, I love that right when you were out of school, you kind of became part of this theater company. And it was very much, it doesn't matter what your role is, everybody's helping at every level. Everybody's the box office, everybody's cleaning the venue and sweeping the stage and doing all of those things. Because it sounds like this job is one of those moments that everything that you've done so far has been building up to it and has played into what you're able to bring into it. And so I wanted to ask about, looking back to first joining that theater company when you were out of school, how that feels like that also parlays into working on a show like The Bear and playing Tina.
Totally. It really did. Having this artistic family, having a space where we, where that you can learn safely, where you can make mistakes, and we look like people we ride the subway with. Was a lifesaver for me personally. And so I guess that's why I just instinctually get Tina. This is your family, these are the ones we're keeping each other alive, and we can't take it for granted. Now that we've, especially now, like we lost Mikey. So absolutely. And I wouldn't change anything. I don't want to go through it again, but I wouldn't change anything that got me here. Yeah.
It's a wonderful sentiment to have on everything, and it's so great to see everything that you've been able to do in these first couple of seasons. I'm so excited to see everything coming for you in season 3. So thank you so much, Liza.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.